Hello BookTube, it's Amy and I'm here with a book haul. I purchased 4 books online. All of them, or most of them anyway, 3 of them are bookish adjacent. They are all related to books in some way, shape, or form, and one of them is a novel. And most of them are fairly new releases, which is unusual for me. But I had been eyeing this one by Denise Giante, Book Madness, a story of book collectors in America, for a little while, since before it came out, in fact. And I had been hoping to buy it in person from my local bookstore, but they never seemed to have it on the shelf, and so I ended up buying it in person. And I quite like the dust jacket on this one. That chair looks extremely comfortable. But I do love my books about books. And the subject matter is American. I'm assuming when they say book collectors in America, they're probably just talking about the United States of America, and not North America or the Americas as a whole, which I think would make a far more interesting book. But even if it's just United States, that's still quite interesting. So let's see. The dust jacket says, the fascinating history of American bookishness as told through the sale of Charles Lamb's library in 1848. Charles Lamb's library, a heap of 60 scruffy old books, singed with smoke, soaked with gin, sprinkled with crumbs, stripped of illustrations, and bescribbled by the essayist and his literary friends, caused a sensation when it was sold in New York in 1848. The transatlantic book world watched as the relics of a man revered as the patron saint of book collectors were dispersed, following those books through the stories of the bibliophiles who shaped intellectual life in America. Booksellers, publishers, journalists, editors, bibliographers, librarians, actors, antiquarians, philanthropists, politicians, poets, clergymen. Denise Giante brings to life a lost world of letters at a time when Americans were busy assembling the country's major public university and society libraries. A human tale of loss, obsession, and spiritual survival. And so it's not entirely, oh, there's the author on the back flap. It's not entirely clear to me what is meant by following. What I'm hoping we're going to get is sort of the provenance of where some of these books ended up, perhaps who came into contact with the books, who purchased them, where they went, and in that way telling us a bit about the history. But I guess we'll see. So there's that one, Book Madness. And of course, while I was getting ready to check that one out, this one came up as a recommendation. This is called The Last Bookseller, A Life in the Rare Book Trade by Gary Goodman. Quite a nice dust jacket on this one as well. This one, well, I suppose that one doesn't look as nice from the side. This one looks quite nice from the side. So I'll probably store this with the dust jacket on as opposed to off. But this one is another bookish related book here. This is from the University of Minnesota Press. Oh, look, we've got a nice illustration in there. Not illustration, a photograph. And so this one says, when Gary Goodman wandered into a rundown used bookshop that was going out of business in East St. Paul in 1982, he had no idea the visit could change his life. He walked in as a psychiatric counselor and walked out as the store's new owner. In The Last Bookseller, Goodman describes his sometimes desperate, sometimes hilarious career as a used and rare book dealer in Minnesota. And I quite like anything that's a memoir of the book trade, and I'm hoping it's going to be more than just, everyday occurrences, funny things that happen in a bookshop, and be a bit more into the books themselves. Because I've read a few memoirs where it's mostly about, oh, you know, customers, how strange, people who like books do weird things. But I tend to prefer when the memoirs dig more into the books themselves that they've sold, that they've encountered, that they've collected. And so we'll see what we get here. And I think this one is fairly recent. Yeah, so this is a 2021 printing. And oh gosh, I guess that makes it almost 2 years old, so not all that new. Book Madness 2022. And I think that came out in the later half of 2022. And then we have another book-related memoir. And this one is gorgeous. This one, it's a shame the back isn't as nice, but this one is gorgeous. This is another memoir, The Misadventures of a Rare Bookseller, it says, Once Upon a Tome. And it kind of annoys me they've printed the description just on the back board instead of putting it on a dust jacket flap. And the paper's quite poor quality here. But this one published in 2022, first American edition 2023. And so I think probably what I'm holding here is the American edition. It can be hit or miss here in Canada. Sometimes we get the UK, sometimes we get the American editions. But it says, welcome to Southron's, one of the oldest bookshops in the world, with its weird and wonderful clientele, suspicious cupboards, unlabeled keys, poison books, and some things that aren't even books, presided over by one deeply eccentric apprentice. And I'm thinking this is a memoir, or is it a novel disguised as a memoir? Let us see. Maybe it is actually a novel. I think it's a novel. I think it is a novel. But it appears to be shaped as a memoir, which is not uncommon. I've encountered memoirs about book selling like this before. But we begin with a note from the author's supervisor. And there's even footnotes here and bits on art and architecture. And so I'm assuming it's going to give us some very good anecdotes, some interesting information. But perhaps our narrator is not real, so to speak. So I will check that out and figure out exactly what it is. It says, some years ago, Oliver Darkshire stepped into the hushed interior of Henry Southern Limited, estimated 1761, to apply for a job. Allured by the smell of old books and the temptation of a management-approved afternoon nap, Darkshire was soon teetering stacks of first editions and placating the store's resident ghost, the late Mr. Southern, hit by a tram. A novice in this ancient, potentially haunted establishment, Darkshire describes Southern's brushes with history, Dickens, the Titanic, its joyous disorganization, and the unspoken rules of its gleefully old-fashioned staff. As Darkshire gains confidence and experience, he explores the strange space that books occupy in our lives, where old editions often have strong sentimental value, but rarely a commercial one. A colorful story of life in one of the world's oldest bookshops, Once Upon a Tome, is also a love letter to the benign, unruly world of antiquarian bookselling, where to be uncommon or strange is the best compliment. But now I'm seeing here on the barcode, it says memoir. So maybe it is a memoir. Maybe it's not a novel. So maybe it is a memoir written in a playful way. A memoir disguised as a novel disguised as a memoir. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, it has a narrative format, and I think it'll be quite interesting and fun to explore. And then this is kind of off-brand for me, but the description caught my eye. This is a novel by B.R. Myers, who I've never heard of before, never read anything by, titled A Dreadful Splendor. And I was looking for something light, and so I'm hoping this is going to hit the spot. We've got what looks like a quote from the book on the back. The description is on the French flap here. It says it's a spectacularly imaginative and ghoulishly fun gothic murder mystery with a fake spiritualist who's summoned to hold a seance for a bride who died on the eve of her wedding. Nefarious secrets are revealed and the line between hoax and haunting blurs. So this is set in Victorian London, which I guess makes it historical fiction. In Victorian London, Genevieve Timmins poses as a spiritualist to swindle wealthy mourners, until one misstep lands her in a jail cell awaiting the noose, when a stranger arrives to make her a peculiar offer. The lord he serves, Mr. Pemberton, has been inconsolable since the tragic death of his beautiful bride-to-be. If Genevieve can perform a seance persuasive enough to bring the young lord peace, she will win her freedom. And I guess there may be a killer on site somewhere. And so I think this one is going to be set aside until Easter weekend, when I'm taking some holidays, just about 3 or 4 weeks from now. And I think this is going to be part of my holiday reading for that weekend. Because what's more thematically sound for Easter than a Victorian murder mystery? But that's the little haul for today. Some brand new books, as I said, unusual for me on my channel. I've got some more used books on their way as well. It's tax return season, right? And when we get our tax return deposit, sometimes we go book shopping, and that's exactly what I've done. And I guess if I swivel here, you can see back there on the shelf, we have the complete Diary of Samuel Pepys. All 11 volumes are there. Technically volume 1 is not on the shelf because I've got it off reading it, but the Samuel Pepys is complete in all its glory, and I've got a few other goodies on the way though, which I will certainly show here on the channel when they do arrive. But I guess we'll leave it at that for today, and let me know if you've read any of these 4 books in the comments below, and talk to you all again soon.